All right, welcome back to another edition of Four Downs with Danny J.
Mr. Wright.
All right, this is first down, but before we get there, I want to talk about something that came up.
Yeah.
Our first down is going to be BYU versus Mississippi State recap, but yesterday, being Monday the 17th, Big 12 presidents got together and made a fool of themselves. They decided not to expand the conference after a year and a half of debating whether to expand, having people, having schools come to them and say, hey, we're interested, getting a list of 22 schools, and then having them do kind of a bachelor style introduction, video, meetings. Just stupid. They had cuts. It was like a reality TV show.
Yeah.
And then for them yesterday to come out and say we're not expanding, we couldn't get we had a unanimous vote not to expand, and we didn't even look at any one individual school like that. As a fan of a school that was, one of the front runners. At least at the beginning, was one of the front runners and was definitely a strong candidate. I feel for all the BYU fans, all the Houston fans, all the Cincinnati fans.
All those teams would. I mean,
all those teams.
They'd make great
South
additions.
Florida, Central Florida, all these other teams. Like the writing's on the wall, and the Big 12 is going to be done in a few years. And they just sounded dumb, and they every phrase they said, every time they talked about something, they all said voluntarily or something to that effect. Like, we didn't do this. It wasn't us. Everyone came to us. It was all on them. They're the ones who spent the money. They're the ones who spent the time. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I honestly think it was probably Fox Sports and ESPN that nixed the deal. That came out a little while ago that they really didn't want them to expand. I think there was a backroom discussion, and they said, look, if you guys don't expand, we'll give you X amount. And it was enough to sway them, but I don't see the Big 12 lasting much longer.
Yeah, I think it was a poor decision, and all of the conferences have gotten bigger. The Pac-12, the SEC, they have all expanded, and it's paid off. So I think it was a dumb decision. And even if I wasn't a BYU fan, I would still be just scratching my head thinking why. It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't look like they ever had plans to expand.
Yeah, just kind of leading everyone on like a high school boyfriend.
I think they were trying to play the TV companies to try to get more money out of them. I really do. But certainly there will be more details to come out, more to follow, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
I'm sure a scandal will come out eventually. So
anyway, just wanted to get that off our chests.
Yeah.
Big 12, or as I'm now going to refer to you as the Little 10. You got 10 schools.
12. I've never understood that.
Yeah.
If one of you can explain that watches this video, please, in the comments below, explain to me why they're the Big 12, but there's only 10 schools. Please, somebody just teach me.
There were 12, then they went to 14, then they lost 4, and now they're stuck at 10.
But they didn't change their names. Like when the Pac-12, they didn't. Yeah. It was the Pac-10, and now it's the Pac-12. They didn't just keep it at Pac. Yeah, I can't do it. Anyways, BYU wins in double overtime against Mississippi State.
Yeah.
You were at the game, right?
I was at the game. It was intense.
You got home late.
I did. It was a kind of a frustrating game.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. It really felt like it was kind of a good measuring stick, I felt, for BYU.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State, even though they're having a down year by their standards, I mean, they were ranked number 1 in the nation 2 years ago.
Yeah, they're
and this year they're
teams.
now 2 and 4. But at the same time, they're still an SEC school, and they showed it.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good measuring stick for BYU to say, yes, we just beat an SEC school, but they also beat a down SEC school. And it showed how far BYU has to go to be able to compete week in and week out on that level.
And, I think one of the problems that BYU kind of faces is they play to their competition. So when they play a really good team, they play really well. Most of the time, not always. When they play a really bad team, they don't play very well. And they play down to the competition as well.
I really haven't been about a down team this year so far.
Well, in years
bad
past,
team.
but I mean, like even Toledo, they're not a, they're a good team, but they're in a weaker conference and everything, and they just played at that level.
The mighty, mighty Mac.
When they played Arizona, they played at their level. I mean, all these close games are because they're playing these other teams at their level, not at BYU's should be level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. On offense, did it feel to you like Taysom regressed a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like yeah, it just seemed off. It didn't seem like the Taysom against Michigan State or against Toledo or
Yeah, he went 16 for 18, which is okay. 165 yards, not great. A 5.9 average. That's not going to beat very many good teams.
That's like a really good running back's average per yards per rush.
Yeah, those numbers got to go up. And yeah, there was a lot of really bad miscommunication between Taysom and the wideouts.
And I think there was 3 of them near the end that they just the wide receiver turned the wrong way, or Taysom threw it to the wrong side. I mean, either way,
there was miscommunication, misreads, and a lot of it was what the receivers were seeing versus what Taysom was seeing. Also, a lot of it had to do with the O-line. The
O-line did not show up.
They had a rough go.
Did not show up.
Yeah, the Mississippi State was able to rush 3 or 4 and get pressure almost every time.
Mm-hmm. There was no holes for Jamal to go anywhere.
That was really frustrating when they weren't standing up. A lot of it, from what I saw when I went back, watched the film, and while I was there, Mississippi State was big and strong, but they just were lower, and they were pushing our O-line around.
Now, BYU's offensive line is pretty beaten up. A lot of starters have gotten injured,
but it's the same old line that was there at Michigan State that we were praising.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not giving them an excuse, but I'm just bringing that up.
So, it was kind of a rough day for Taysom because he was under pressure. Mm-hmm. Receivers, a lot of them wanted to try to go long or run longer routes. They weren't settling down. I think of that interception where Juergens decided to run an out, and he ran a very lazy, curled out instead of stop and turn. And Taysom threw the ball right at the point of the break. What Taysom, I'm sure, was thinking was Juergens was just going to turn around and sit down and come back to the ball instead of having a looping out route. So that was kind of a rough go to watch. Just there were 4 or 5 of those miscommunications. That's got to get cleaned up, and I'm sure that'll get cleaned up in film this week.
Yeah. I can't imagine Coach Sataki not looking at that film and Coach Detmer and being okay with that.
Yeah.
It'll get fixed.
Jamal had kind of a rough day. He had 26 carries for 76 yards. But on his last 5 carries, he gained 21 yards. Finally, when the game mattered in overtime, and right at the end of the 4th quarter, the O-line got some big blocks. Tuni Kanuch had a couple really nice holes that he opened up. Mm-hmm. And, so he gained 21 yards, broke the all-time rushing record.
Congratulations.
Jamal, we salute you. And then the tight ends had 2 really big catches.
Big-time catches.
They only had 2 catches all game.
And they were, thank goodness.
They both ended up for touchdowns. The first one was to Hunter Marshall on that 4th and goal, which, let's be honest, that's a play that probably should have been run against Utah.
Yeah.
For the 2-point conversion to try to win that game. I loved the play call. It worked really, really well. The defense sold out against the run. And then the other one was the touchdown to Tanner Baldery, the very last offensive play of the game for BYU for that 25-yard touchdown in double OT.
Wow.
Which was the way they lined up. It was a different set. They motioned into it, but it was the exact same play that they did to start the game that Taysom almost got picked off.
Yeah.
That time, he had guys right in his face. He threw it pretty quickly. This time, it was a great play call by Detmer to go back to say, hey, that was open. And
you got to just hit it now. So.
Just got to hit it. And that was the very first offensive play of the game and the very last for BYU. Loved that. On defense, what'd you think of the D?
Not their worst, but it was definitely not to the standards that I and many other BYU fans have come to expect.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy. The tackling was a little sloppy.
Missed tackles, penalties. Some as a defensive player, I don't think you should ever have an excuse for being offsides.
For lining up offsides.
For lining up offsides. You concede the ball. Like, are you just not looking? Like, so that was pretty frustrating. A lot of, and then like giving up, like when it's 3rd down and 18 or 4th down and 10, giving up an 11, 12-yard play so they get the first down. Make a freaking stop.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
It was very frustrating. You got to give their offensive line credit though.
Yeah.
They gave that quarterback all the time in the world,
and he made some very accurate throws in some tight spaces. Where there's 3 BYU players right around, and he just zips it right into the
right in the soft spot of the zone.
Yeah, just perfect. So,
but if a quarterback, honestly, if a decent quarterback has that kind of time,
he'll find the open guy.
Yeah. In a 4-3 defense, the 4-3 defense is predicated on those front 4 down linemen getting pressure.
Yeah.
Those front 4 linemen have to get pressure. And that's something that BYU is not doing consistently. Mm-hmm. Yes, Saitao too had a good game. He got a couple sacks.
Yeah.
Harvey Langi, he's good. Tuiloma, Logan Taele, they're all good players, but they're not getting to the quarterback consistently enough.
Yeah, they're not putting enough pressure in there.
And if has time to sit there, especially if you're running zone, they're going to be soft spots, and that's what it looked like all night long. Most of the night. But when it counted, they came up big.
And that's, what matters is they got the W. They doesn't matter the score or whatever. They got the W, and then they can go work on the things they need to during camp. We're happy with the W. And they'll get better.
Absolutely. So overall, it wasn't the best performance. But it's still over a big name school, an SEC school, and it's still the 4th win in a row.
Yep.
And I don't know about if this is coincidence or not, but my 2 teams, the Buffalo Bills and the BYU Cougars, on 4-game win streaks. I'm just throwing that out there.
Just throwing
that out there. All right. And with that being said, this has been another edition of 4 Downs with Danny J.
And Mr. Wright. So, like and subscribe, share, do all that. We appreciate it. But yeah, see you next time.